Welcome, welcome, welcome to the C-Suite Support Council. And it's our first council meeting of this year. So very excited about 2024 and all the great things we have in store here in the C-Suite Support Council, of course, in Dallas, across the country, and across the whole of the C-Suite platform. There are just so many great things happening. Super, super excited, and also very excited to hear what you're excited about, what you're leading on with your businesses and your communities and so on outside of C-Suite and bringing into C-Suite and so on. Now, Paul, of course, is a fractional CFO with a mission to help businesses grow exponentially with extensive experience in creative problem solving, and is really leading in this whole area of how we look at the fractional role, whether that's CFO, COO, CMO, et cetera, and absolutely love that leadership here in the C-Suite, because there are so many of us that have extraordinary talent. And if we can ensure that that introduction, that opportunity is being incorporated into our executive audiences when they're needing that time, plus have the community supported here, we just absolutely love that. And the values alignment of creating real value, excellent results for the people that we serve, that certainly unites us across the whole of the C-Suite network. Now, I also have the honor of introducing Chris. Now, Chris has been with C-Suite Support for several years, is absolutely tremendous. I might be a little biased because he does have a Canadian background, right, Chris?
That's true. You have a good memory, Trisha.
There we go.
For
I'm
better or
like,
worse, yes.
yeah. So those of us, Canadians who've now also become Americans, this is something of note. We can blend in, but we also have, those unique Canadian characteristics that aren't necessarily aligned with Prime Minister Trudeau. That's a whole other session. But Chris is an extraordinary leader with CC's support, and he's going to jump in and start this conversation for today. So Chris, I'm so thrilled to be able to hand things over to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Trisha. Excited to have Fanny with us today. Briefly, I am with C-Suite Support, and I focus in the fractional space, working with small businesses between 5 and 50 million for the most part. So we're excited to have Fanny, you with us today. She has a background in marketing consultancy, if I said that right, and in the technology industry. She has a firm called PathLynks, and Fanny, I'll let you get into that a little more here shortly, that specializes in LinkedIn content, strategies and plans, live stream, video marketing, and production. So essentially content, if I might sum it up that way. You also work with leadership teams on business and personal branding. So not just the mechanics of it, but the background on the branding side. So Fanny, we're really excited to have you today. We can jump into some questions. I did want to open it up if you could tell us a little bit about PathLynks, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you all. Happy New Year. Thank you to the C-Suite Network to invite me here, especially Paul. Paul and I we met through LinkedIn. And so that's kind of like a teaser of the power of that network, and just through connections. And I've kind of devoted my last 8 years to this platform and helping a variety of businesses. And in the last 2 years, I kind of focus mainly on technology consulting firms. But no matter what business you're in, especially if you're in B2B, LinkedIn is really the platform that you can really leverage to reach a wide network and establish your authority in your subject matter. I came from a background of civil engineering, so I'm a huge geek, and I love all that tech and gadgets and all that world. So I did engineering for a while, and then got into business consulting and change management, and did that for over a decade, and then took some time off to be a stay-at-home mom and have some babies. And then the last 8 years, I've had my own business doing marketing and branding for a variety of businesses, and especially in the technology industry. My huge focus and kind of passion is all about highlighting the individual. I think these days, especially on our busy digital world, right, where we're just inundated with tons of content, the thing that sets you apart and your businesses apart is actually your personal brand. And so I'm going to go through some exercises, and Paul and I talked, and we said he wanted me to get very tactical and specific. And so I'm going to do that. And we kind of talked through some kind of like top challenges that I saw in businesses and how those can be addressed through LinkedIn branding and marketing, as well as videos. So that's kind of what we'll cover today.
Great, Fanny, thanks. So one of the questions, I guess, that comes up first in my mind. So you mentioned the LinkedIn platform specifically, whether that's an advertising platform, a personal brand development. A lot of the companies that we work with have a business in place and probably don't understand the full sort of power of the LinkedIn platform. Can you maybe expand on that a little bit? And if people are not on LinkedIn using it, should they be, or is it not for everyone?
Right.
Maybe just tell us a bit about that platform as we get moving.
Yeah. Can I get just a quick hands up around, is everyone in B2B or are you in B2C, or what is kind of like the makeup of people on this call right here? Just kind of shout it out, or type it in the chat. I see Trisha, B2B. Is everyone else kind of more or less in B2B? Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I've seen B2C on LinkedIn, but yeah, okay, they're all coming in now. Definitely B2B is the place. And so I wanted to kind of give you some stats, right? Some figures and hard numbers as to why LinkedIn is such a powerful network. Right now, if you look across all these different social media channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all that, they are very saturated. They've been around for quite a while, and it's just constant content and difficult to stand out. But with LinkedIn, it really is this network where you can see exactly where that person you're interacting with is from, their job, their titles, their companies, and their history. And so you really have a nice background as to who you need to target and who you want to connect with. But I want to go through a quick exercise with you. If you take out your phone, or if you just type into your computer, if you Google your name, okay, I want you to check out what's in your top 3 to 5 search results. Okay, if you Google your name, tell me what you see. Assuming your name is not totally common, like John Smith or something. That is super, super common. What are you noticing when you Google your name?
I can tell you right away that part of the reason I'm here is the internet has forgotten about me. And the reason is because for the last 10 years, I've been working on a very esoteric project with a lot of confidentiality. So yeah, I don't show up much, which is okay, actually. But now I'm sort of like, how do I want to show up? I've been in the IT field for over 40 years now, and literally have done everything that there is to do. And so I'm sort of going back with my higher skills and trying to decide what I want my LinkedIn profile to look like, which actually I sort of need 3, I suppose, from what I've seen so far. But anyways, that's my story.
Yeah, no, that's a great valid point. But if you notice, and I'm seeing all the things coming in, typically, unless your name is super common, your LinkedIn profile will end up being in your top 3 to 5 search. So Gary, I think one of maybe your homework later after this session is to ensure your LinkedIn profile is updated, and we'll talk through that. But I wanted to share with you real quick. So I Googled Paul, okay, Paul Whitley, because he's the man that I know from this organization.
That's got to be a scary thought too.
Can you see my screen? You guys?
I can.
Yes. Okay, so check this out, right? You look at this, right? Paul Whitley. I Googled him, and your LinkedIn profile came up as my #1 search result. Okay. And notice it's even above this. I think this is a musician where the URL is Paul Whitley, right? And so like the LinkedIn profile beat out a URL that was the exact same name, right? And then from there, there's your C-suite support, right? So you'll typically notice that LinkedIn always comes up very top in Google search results. So whenever your prospects or your clients are trying to, look you up after you reach out to them, if they're starting to Google you, ensuring that your LinkedIn profile is updated and saying exactly what you need it to say is critical, right? Especially as a business leader, and especially as you kind of attract prospects and build leads, right? So that's one stat I want to share with you as to why it's so important just having your LinkedIn profile updated, right? I also wanted to share with you some other stats here. I think a lot of times people think LinkedIn is just a job network. I'm hoping nobody on this call thinks that, but if you do, I do want to share that nowadays the content on LinkedIn has 15 times more impressions than job postings, right? It's really become a place for people to grow and learn and network. So it's shifted from job search to expanding networks, building community, and then learning as well. People come to learn about things in their industry and then meet other people in their industry. And then I want to share real quick these stats right here, okay? I don't know how many of you are geeks like me. Like I'm all about like, we need facts and figures to back up what we say, right? And so there are almost 1 billion global users right now on LinkedIn. And of those people, 17 million posted in the last 30 days. So that's just 1.7% of people globally that are creating content. Right? In Dallas-Fort Worth, there are over 4 million users of LinkedIn, or at least registered on LinkedIn. In the last 30 days, 110,000 people posted. But that's just 2.75% that are actually posting and creating content on LinkedIn, right? Sharing that knowledge or expertise. But people that are logging in and looking at it and reading the feed, we're at 48.5%. So almost half of people that come on to LinkedIn are looking and what I call lurking, but they're not posting. Only 2.75% are posting, right? So when you think about that, there is such huge organic growth. Like I still have a regular account on LinkedIn. Like you don't even need to pay for premium to get some of these benefits, right? So the demand for content, the demand to learn things and network and all that is so much greater than the actual content that is being posted. So even though your feed looks super busy and all that, right? And there's like half of the users are on there looking, but they're not creating anything. They're not posting anything. Only 2% in Dallas-Fort Worth, 2.75 are posting. So it's still a wonderful time to get out there and make your mark and share content around your expertise, your knowledge, your advice, your tips and tactics and things like that, and really become a thought leader on the platform. And then there's all these executives and decision makers that are going to buy from you and want to get to know you, and that you know exactly where to find them, and by searching through companies and things like that. Right? So I want to share with you really quickly those slides to just kind of give you the stats around why LinkedIn is so critical right now.
Fanny, I want to jump in. I apologize. I had a conflict for the first few minutes here, and thank you everybody for joining. And for those that aren't aware, we are going to be reposting this to C-Suite Network, as well as reposting up for all of us on LinkedIn. Fanny, one of the biggest problems that I think every company has, every person that owns or works with a company, is branding.
Yeah.
What is the direction that you would take us in this kind of conversation? Obviously, that is a lot of information to try to disseminate in a short meeting.
Yeah.
But if we don't address branding and getting us out there to develop that brand and stand up from the crowd, then we're one of those 4.3 million that are just sitting out there every day. So what are your thoughts towards helping us be better in what we do? How do we do it?
Yeah. I wanted to, if it's okay with you all, I wanted to take you through a quick exercise. I do this for my clients, but I'm going to do it really quick for you. We usually spend like 2 hours on this, but I'm going to try to do it in 5 minutes for you guys to give you a snippet of it. The goal of this is to make sure that you are different than everyone else that does what you do. Right? You might be a project manager, a CFO, a COO, or whatever, title you are and specialty you are. But how do you stand out from everyone else that's doing finance or operations or project management and all that, right? So I'm going to share with you real quick, a quick way to set yourself apart. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, you see how to define your unique brand. Okay. And real quick, your brand, as far as, I think there's a lot of different definitions of what brand is, but ultimately brand is your reputation, right? What do people say about you? How are you known? Right? So I want to go through this quick exercise with you. I'm going to try to do it in 5 minutes here. If you are to draw 4 boxes on your piece of paper or your notebook or your, you could type it into your Word doc or whatever, right? In each of the boxes, in box number 1, put your expertise. Box number 2, put your values. Box number 3, your strengths. And then box number 4, your interests. Okay, so if you could just kind of jot that down real quick on your piece of paper or computer. Okay. Your expertise, right? I want you to write down 3 things that you are an expert in, right? You all have had decades of experience. 3 things that you want to sell, right? You want people to hire you for and be known for, and that you're an expert in, right? And the more specific you can be, the better, right? 3 topics that you can speak to anybody about and, you're the expert in. Okay. Just give you a few seconds to do that. 3 things. Okay. And then values. Okay. So the expertise is what I call what's in your head, right? Your knowledge, your experience. Now your values, right? Write down 3 values you have that show people who you are, right? It's like it comes from your heart, right? So I'm going to give you a quick list. I don't know if you can see it on your computer, but these are different words for values. Pick 3 that speak to you, right? Say, that is me. I believe in that value. I stand for that value. Okay. So just pick 3 from this list. It covers everything from creativity to fun to analytical to transparency to trust, justice, kindness, all kinds, gratitude. 3 things that speak to who you are, not just what you know. Okay. And then have you guys done Strengths Finder in this group before? Right. I don't know if you've had a Strengths Finder speaker or anything like that, but I believe very strongly about that. I'm not a Strengths Finder coach myself, but I use a lot of that with my clients. And for those that know your strengths, your top 5 strengths, jot those down. If you haven't done this quiz before, it's at thegallup.com Clifton Strengths. If you Google Clifton Strengths, it's like a $20 assessment and you answer these questions. And these are strengths in terms of even when you're tired and stressed, like it's just innately in you, right? You are just super well adapted and super naturally gifted at these things, right? You know, you might be more strategy thinking. You might be more of a relationship building person, or maybe you're more of an influencing kind of person, or you're all about execution and implementation. You're executing. So definitely do this assessment if you haven't done it already, and it'll give you the themes and the strengths. And otherwise, just jot down what your results are from your previous assessments. Okay. So you have your expertise, which is what you know. You have your values, which illustrates who you are. And then your strengths, which is something innate in you. You could do it like in your sleep, right? And then interests. This is the fun part, right? Name 3 hobbies you have. 3 things you just love to do on the weekends, or sports, basketball, golf. Maybe you're a reader, you're podcasts, you love to listen to podcasts, or it's travel, you're a foodie, you know, you like crafts, or you like airplanes, or you geek out over baseball cards. Whatever it is, list down 3 things from your interests. Okay. So from there, what happens is your answers to these things and to these 4 boxes become a snippet of what your brand is, right? And it becomes something very, very unique to you, right? There's nobody else in the world that has this combination, right? And maybe there is, but like it's hard to find, right? And so if you did this, I'm just going to share with you mine real quick. So for instance, like my expertise is around content creation, calendars, ideas, branding, and so forth. My values are very much around trust and transparency and building community. My strengths is connectedness, and then includer. I'm a very relationship kind of person. That's what came out in my assessment. And then interests. I love Star Wars and travel and food and Lego and all that kind of stuff. I love all that kind of geeky things, right? And so Paul.
Oh, just called him, sorry.
Okay, all good. So as you look at these things, right, in front of you on your own brand, right, these become ideas for your content. These become things and words that you can write about on LinkedIn, right, and combining them in a certain way, right? So I want to walk through a quick exercise, right, where one of my clients is a sales coach, right? And so his expertise is around sales and closing deals and pricing, okay? He had values around growth and learning, right? And then his strengths, one of his strengths was positivity, right? He just is an optimist. And then he also played golf. He was on the golf team in college, and he continues to be an avid golfer, right? So from there, we started to craft content where he would give sales tips and advice and blogs or talk about them on videos and carousels. And then he would talk about the importance of continually learning and growing with his network. And he would always have a dose of optimism. The way he writes is very positive. And then we would also use golf analogies for his sales advice, right? So he would talk about lining up goals, or lining up goals that are tied to sales revenue and things like that. And then he would talk about that in reference to golf and how he lines up his shots and things like that, right? So then what happens is his content becomes very, very unique to him, right? And then what we put out, we attract, right? So when we put out content that shows our interests and our values and our hobbies, even though we're talking about sales, which might be content that's very prevalent out there, you start to attract people that are interested in those other things, your values and your hobbies. And so then that sparks a conversation and creates a connection with your audience that is different than anybody else in your network or in your industry. Right? I'm going to stop here, and I'd love to kind of see what you wrote down, and maybe if someone is open to sharing what came out of this exercise, and I can kind of talk through it a little bit further with you, and use you as an example, actually.
I'll offer up.
Bashful.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the golf thing triggered something. I don't play golf, but one of my business associates is a software engineer. He obsesses over it. But anyways, there was a famous instance where Tiger Woods was talking to Byron Nelson. And he asked Byron Nelson about, hey, so when I'm in this area here on this golf course, how do I get out of there and get into a good shot? And Byron Nelson told him, if you drive straight correctly the first time, you'll never have to make that shot. So focus on that. And that goes very much to sort of my brand, which is what people hire me for and what I've done. I look things over and I say, that's not right. We're just doing this simple thing first and then moving forward. So it kind of triggered both of those.
Yeah. What else did you put in your expertise and values, strengths, and hobbies?
Well, so yeah, I can just chant them off. I didn't really write them all down, but I know these fairly well. They sort of ended up in my website when I put it up the other day. And that is expertise is all things technological, particularly distributed systems, networking, and anything having to do with information technology.
Okay.
And my values are simplicity, strength, honesty, those kinds of things, because like Byron Nelson said, that keeps the rest of your life nice and clean. I also have a saying that to my clients, opinions cost money, facts make money. So what that means is if you use an opinion, then you're not founded in fact, and you're likely to spin off in a bad direction. And then strengths would be analytical ability, decisiveness, confidence, coolness under pressure, keep calm and carry on sort of thing. By the way, I spent some time in Toronto doing a project for Bank of Montreal. It classifies as my favorite North American city. I really enjoyed it. Of course, it was in the summer. It started to get cold when my assignment.
You bailed
when
it got cold.
In Toronto too. So
yeah, I was down by Bay and Bloor Street. They put me up in a nice hotel for 6 months and worked at the Bank of Montreal headquarters after it moved to Toronto. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I love Toronto. It's great.
And your hobby?
And my hobbies are really, when it comes down to it, it's really building things, making things better. People, I do a lot of coaching over the years, and I've done training courses, and
what do you do on the weekend?
On the weekends,
like a fun
I don't really have weekends. What I mean by that is my life is just sort of a continuum. I mean, I recognize it from other people, but I'm always doing the same thing over and over again. And I get great joy out of doing my work and actualizing my motivations, which are to build people, build things, make things better. So really, it's making things better. Whatever's going on, I enjoy making it better. That's really my big hobby.
Awesome. So I'm just going to spitball real quick because for the sake of time and all that, right?
Sure.
So and for each of you on this call, right, think through as we're talking about how you can combine all those things, all those words in your 4 boxes into content, right? Because that leads to, another question that I always get is like, what to post, right? But so for instance, for Gary, okay, I'm just going to spitball real quick here, Gary, right? You talk a lot about tech, right? And I assume strategy and things like that. So some of the things that you could talk about, whether it's through blogs or videos, and we'll talk later about different formats and all that, right? You're very much about facts and analytics. So, in your content, you can quote a lot of statistics and things like that, and that will naturally attract other people that value facts and figures, right?
Like all the CFOs I've worked for.
Perfect, exactly, right? They want numbers, right? So
That's
then
my thing. Here's your
you
information
stick to your
technology
thing.
investment. It's controlled. I got it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas like, for me, I'm, I like facts and figures, but I'm a lot more on the relationship side. So then I talk more on that side, right? But every one of you needs to be unique to you, right? So if that's what you love, Gary, then that's the type of content, facts and figures. And then from there, the fact that you value simplicity, right? That can become like your go-to thing, like tech made simple or something, right? Or some kind of like tagline or something like that, because tech gets so like complex and people just can't understand it.
That part about me is very popular with senior executives.
Yeah, right. Especially like if you're trying to explain some kind of new IT project to operations or to a CFO, right?
Yeah.
And so as you all look at your own kind of boxes and your words, think through how you can combine those things, right? So then for Gary, whenever you talk about tech topics, right, you want to simplify it as much as possible and using which is natural to you, right? But as you describe yourself, whether it's in a LinkedIn profile or on your blog or whatever, you then always have the word simple in there. So you basically populate your content with that word simple in every single post, in every single blog, every single page on your website, right? And same thing for all of you, like those kind of words that you are known for, you need to make sure they're everywhere on your content, especially LinkedIn. And so then what happens is over time, it seeps into people's brains from consuming your content that Gary's all about simplicity. And Gary will always give me facts and figures to justify things and to back things up. And then that becomes your unique brand, right? And the word building, right? You said that a few times, right?
I love your Legos thing, by the way. That's awesome. Yeah. Legos is awesome.
I love it. I still buy them. I asked for it for Christmas. But like, it's all about, so then the word building needs to be everywhere on your content, right? And that's what happens, right? Like if I say Nike, what 3 words are you going to say?
Well, there's only one word. Nike actually means victory in ancient Greece.
Good now.
Just do it, right?
Just do it.
Just do it. Like but that's seeped into our brains over the years, right? And that's what we want to do with your own personal brands is have keywords and things that you want to be known for. So that when I think of Gary, I think of building, simplicity, and tech. Done.
Oh, right? Don't forget execute. Don't forget execution. I also do project
but
management.
My brain can only store 3 things, right? But like that's like to have these kind of like catchy, simple things is where like that's the beginnings of your brand.
Well, I think following on with that, Fanny, I was recently involved in an assessment with a company, and we took some of these same concepts and ideas that the CEO who had an assessment company for employees and new hires and et cetera. And we took this into what were the values, what were the different pieces, and it came down to your business is too complex. Okay, now somebody in the room and we started talking about what is the leader of your business? What do you make the most money off of and have the most contact with? We came to the resolution of what it was. And he said, let's simplify your business and go with what your leader is, because it's also your feeder to your business. If you have 22 things out there, you're confusing your audience.
Yeah.
So when you start building these values and things that are important to you, you then start figuring out what you're the best at.
Absolutely.
He took those ideas and 60 days later came back and said his business had almost doubled by changing his presentation of who he was, what he was, and the branding of his business, both on LinkedIn and in his marketing. So the piece it goes past just getting into your blogs and content. It builds into your character and your development of your brand product as well as your brand.
Right.
The complexity retards execution. And by the way, we're both in Texas. Maybe this business simplicity thing is a Texas cultural theme.
Exactly. So following on that, we talked about content and et cetera. And just for expedience of time, because we're going to turn this totally open to questions here in just a minute, but building a plan, content plan, an annual plan, nurturing relationships, et cetera. Let's move into how do you use this platform,
Right.
the ideas that you just developed in your brand, and the follow on what happens in getting those relationships and out there to build onto.
Absolutely. Yeah. So then the next question is, okay, now that you kind of have an idea of who you are and what you want to talk about, right? In those, from those 4 boxes, then how do you translate that into a post for LinkedIn or into a video on LinkedIn or a blog or anywhere, right? And it doesn't even have to be just on LinkedIn, right? So I'm going to share with you this, what I call the 4x12 content method, okay? Content creation framework. Okay, so feel free to take, screenshots of this and use it as reference as you go along. Okay. The first thing, so the 4, right? The 4x12, the 4 part of it is there is these 4 purposes of LinkedIn content and any kind of content, actually. One is to educate people with your expertise and your knowledge. Second is to inform. So inform them about events, conferences, webinars, all those kind of different things that you guys are hosting and sharing and speaking at. Third is to inspire. This is where you touch their hearts, because sometimes it's all about the story. It's all about touching their heart, and then it converts people to action and to buying. And then the 4th purpose is to entertain. This is the fun part, right? That's why you see these things go viral, because they appeal to the inner child or to the fun side of it. It makes you laugh, right? And so if I were to apply numbers, for those of you that like figures, right? What I typically advise is around 55% of your content should be educational in nature, 15% informational, another 15% more inspirational, and then the final 15% entertainment, okay? So that you don't become just about education and like dry topics, right? People might want to be reading your financial advice, but be entertained as well. And again, that's how you'll set yourself apart from your peers. So that's the 4 part, right? The 12 part is that on LinkedIn, no other platform has this. And feel free to take a screenshot of this, right? There are 12 types of formats on LinkedIn. Okay, so if you like to be on video, you can be on video. If you hate being on video, you could write, right? If you like short form content, you could do short posts. If you like long form content, you can do articles and so forth. Or even newsletters, right? So everything from just simple comments can make an impact to sharing articles, to text-only posts, to photos. The #1 top performing type of posts out of all these is photos. Okay, so whenever you're at your events, be sure to take photos and talk about it. Or if you're giving a webinar, do a screenshot, or have someone take a photo of you on the stage, whatnot. Or if you're meeting people at a networking event, you want to promote your C-suite networking events, always be posting photos. No matter what, I've tested all these formats, photos always perform the best on LinkedIn. Okay, plus, a post to go with it. There's also carousel decks, slide decks that people can scroll through, longer LinkedIn articles, videos. If you do videos, keep them to 2 minutes or less, right? In fact, these days, people can typically only consume 1 minute or less. There's also polls, right? If you're unsure of what your audience thinks, or you want to gather feedback from people, you could do polls on LinkedIn, right? And then newsletters. If you are a writer, you could do kind of like every 2 weeks, you commit to spitting out a newsletter. The very unique thing, just a tidbit here about LinkedIn, is when you start a newsletter, that very first one, right, is critical. Because what it'll do is it will announce to your whole network. So let's say, I think, Paul, you have like 8,000 connections or something, right,
Right.
on LinkedIn, right? So typically at least 20 to 30% of that number will subscribe to your newsletter, right? Because LinkedIn pushes it out onto notifications. And then, like, where else are you going to get that kind of high number? I don't know, what's 20% of
1,600.
8,000? Yeah,
1,500.
you couldn't get that by just like, keep on pushing it out, right? Manually. So newsletters do great if you're a writer. Live streams, if you want to just like wing it, you're one of those great speakers. You can do live stream audio events. If you don't want to be on camera, but you like to talk, that's a feature. And then a podcast network. So I just wanted to share with you those really quick, and then now flash through real quick what I mean by all that, right? This will give you exact examples. So as I pull up these examples, jot down which one resonates with you and which one you would be comfortable with posting, okay? And I'm just gonna go flashing through this, right? Books that you read. If you're a reader and it ties into your expertise, quotes from books, right? Gadgets, I'm a gadget person, right? Or items that you like to promote, you can talk about that. You can use carousels, right? So if you have, 10 best practices to whatever, 5 mistakes to avoid when doing whatever, like, so insert your expertise in there. Those make for great carousel posts where you've seen kind of like slide decks. Videos, right? Whenever you speak, get a videographer to record it. So you could speak for 30 minutes and then chop it up into all these tiny 1-minute segments, and you'll have 30, 40 pieces of content that you can repurpose and post, right? So think of content everywhere, right? Or you can interview people, right? And then I loved live streams, so I do a lot of those as well. So those are educational kind of posts. Informational posts is like you can be announcing these C-suite networking events. Flash it up on the screen, do a flyer, or you could speak to it, right? And do a 30-second video. Hi, everybody. I'm Trisha. I want to share with you an upcoming event. It's a great chance for you to network, blah, 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 blah. It's on this date, that time, all that done. 30 seconds post, right? And you're informing people that you're a mover and shaker and that you're networking and you're getting out there, right? Conferences that you're at, photos. And when you are at conferences, share your takeaways, right? Don't just say, I was at this conference, period. Say, these are the 5 things that I learned from this conference, or these are the 5 things I learned from this speaker. And so what happens then is that even though your audience didn't get to go, you are sharing knowledge and sharing information. And so from there, they get to feel like they learned something from you about the conference, right? And so forth. inspirational things that touch people's hearts. A lot of times people will connect with you purely based on your values, purely based on what you stand for. So I may not have a need for a CFO, but I'm following Paul because I like his expertise on business, and or I like that he talks about family values, right? Or being a servant leader, right? And so forth, right? So then I'm creating that connection. I've done things, everything from song lyrics that I'm passionate about to quotes. If you like quotes, do quotes. Gary, you mentioned a few quotes just in our conversation, right? You can make those quotes into a post. You know, at Christmas, I talked about a holiday wish for everybody. I got to meet Simon Sinek at one conference, and then he had all this inspirational stuff. So I just regurgitated what I learned from Simon and made it into a post, right? I'm sure you guys all attend tons of conferences and meet tons of inspirational people, right? You're working at the C-suite level. And then if you're on a panel or whatever, I'm very passionate about female content creators and making sure we have more female voices. And so I talk a lot about elevating female voices as well. And finally, just some ideas real quick of like entertaining posts. There's my Lego references that tied into Zoom calls and the different Zoom personas. I love travel. So then I talk about like trips and things and tie it to business lessons and marketing lessons. So I might be on a trip for vacation, but if I notice something cool around marketing, then I take a photo and I talk about that. So same thing with you, right? Find things that tie. So for me, it's travel and marketing. So then I tie that together into a post to make it entertaining. I love Star Wars, so I talk about storytelling. Bloopers are great. I talk about embracing fear, and then again, more travel. So I wanted to kind of like give you just some quick ideas of how you start to put all that together, from what you know to your hobbies, and then the different formats that you can do.
Well, Fanny, I appreciate sharing. You and I have been connecting and podcasting and things here for a while. It's a pleasure to introduce you to Tricia and C-Suite Network. Again, I invite you to come to the meeting on the third Wednesday and join us there. I'd like to introduce you to part of this crowd. And as we talked about earlier, they're going to put into the link, and they may have already done it for the network they have. It's one of the first things. If you're in the Dallas area, we have a network thing on the 17th and would love to have you there. And that's all the stuff that I'm going to put in there for the C-Suite Network and C-Suite support. Let's turn it around. Questions for Fanny. What would you like to build or do better than you're doing now and would like to have help on it? Bill, jump in there. Bill Sanders.
I love the part about the content. Do you have any advice for us around how we actually rewrite or work on the actual profile piece?
Okay. Yes.
That seems to be the hardest thing. I'm very good at helping other people with their resumes, and I just can't write my own to save my life, right?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So I usually like to separate it into sections, right? So typically in a profile, the first sentence even, okay, from a searchability standpoint, you should have your first name, last name as the first two words in your LinkedIn profile, right? In that about section. You're talking about the about section, right? On
Yes.
LinkedIn. Yes.
Well, and the headline too, if you've got advice on that.
Oh, okay. Yes. So let's talk about first, and then I'll get to the headline. Okay. So in the about section of your LinkedIn profile, right? So in your case, Bill Sanders, right? And then I would have a sentence that summarizes what you do, right? And you can use kind of those things we put into those 4 boxes today, right? To kind of amalgamate that. You can even go into ChatGPT, right? And type in all those words that you wrote down today in those 4 boxes and say, write a summary paragraph based on these words, right? So that's a quick way, because I know sometimes I think we provide services for others and we can see them clearly, but it's harder to do it for ourselves. So ChatGPT is your friend in this case. Type in those words from those 4 boxes and ask it to write a summary for you of what you do. And then you can tweak from there.
Hey,
So that's
Bill,
the first paragraph, right?
just a quick, I want to say a quick thing as a writer
Yeah.
and as a content creator. When you get jammed up like that, best thing to do, take the key concepts and write it from scratch. Don't rework the existing work. That just jams you up even worse.
Yeah.
Every
And
time.
ChatGPT is not intelligence. It's not even as smart as an ant, but there are certain things it does wonderfully. And this kind of thing that it does that perfectly. Put in the key concepts, tell it what you want,
yeah.
summarize it. And it does a wonderful job at that sort of thing. It helps seed letters and also analyze work and look at grammar. It's really great at those things.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of like the summary. So if they don't want to scroll, they just get that about you, right? The second paragraph or second list, I would suggest, is to make that about your services and what you help people with, right? So instead of just saying something like project management or quality assurance or financial statement or whatever, right? Say things more about helping people that are stuck with whatever, addressing these pain points and then listing those pain points. So then people see themselves in your sentence, right? Talk about the pain that you help to solve. That's the second paragraph. And then the third one is who you serve, right? So list out whether it's certain job titles or certain industries that you serve, right? And then the fourth paragraph, I would talk about something fun about you, right? Your hobbies or something, right? Because a lot of times that's what will pull somebody in as well. So that's on the about section. And then, and then a call to action, book appointment, contact me here, and so forth, right? So that's the about section. And then in your headline, right? Maximize your headline, okay? Let me share real quick.
While you're pulling that up, I want to make the comment. This goes for everybody. If we're in business working B2B, the worst thing you can do is not have your name, telephone number, email address of how they can find you in the about section. If you're not connected to them, they have no clue how to get a hold of you. They have to go through 3, 4, 5 steps, wait on you to get there to try to connect with you for business. So in that call to action, while Vanny's pulling this up, every one of you that are B2B people should have that in there to make that connection.
Yeah. By the way, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to be connected to you all today. But just now, Gary and I, we were talking about this section, this about section down here, right? And then just very similar to what we just said, a summary sentence, and then talk about the pain and then how you can help, who you serve, services, and then some calls to action, okay? This part, this is the headline. If you're going to spend time, spend it all here, okay? Because a lot of times that's all people even see. Nobody takes the time to necessarily go through your whole profile, right? I always say the first sentence should be all about what problem you're solving or what you're helping people with, okay? So here's a formula, right? I help, okay, X being who you serve, okay? So I help X, who you serve, whether it's implement or solve or whatever, right? And then say something like a few words about what you do, right? So I help X solve Y, right? In order to achieve Z, Z being the benefit or the impact of what you do, right? So I help tech leaders be seen and heard on LinkedIn. And then from there, I ran out of space in this one. But for you, I wanted to put some other keywords in there. But then like for me, it's to drive impact and leads, right? But for you, it's I help X solve Y to achieve Z. Okay, so that's a simple formula you could use, Gary, and anyone else, or sorry, Bill, to showcase what you do. Does that make sense, Bill?
It does.
That
Thank you.
formula. And then from there, populate it with things that you want to be hired for, right? And then you can have those vertical lines. I like, I try to do a lot of live streams for my clients, as well as content marketing, video marketing, so forth. But put in like keywords that you think somebody would type in to search for your services, right? And then if you're a host of something, if you're an advocate for something, and then if you decide to be a content creator, right, and want followers in a community, then you tell people exactly why they should follow you. For me, it's LinkedIn content tips and so forth. Right? Does that help, Bill?
It does. Thank you.
Andy, I want to thank you. We're about to run out of time, and I'd like to turn it back over to Tricia to be able to close for C-Suite Network here. But thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you on the 17th. I'll give you a hard time if I don't get to see you there, and then you meet Tricia and the rest of our
Hold
team.
me to it.
All right.
Love it.
Oh my goodness, Fanny, Paul, Chris, everybody here. Thank you so much. This is fantastic. I literally, I found out when I did mine, I've got C-Suite Holdings, I've got my C-Suite LinkedIn bio, I have my C-Suite bio. So everybody here who's a contributor, your profile on C-Suite Network, that's kind of important too. And my title is not updated there. So I've already sent some notes on that, and I'm looking at how I make it less painful to write bios for myself. So Bill, to your point, I think that's a constant issue. Because if you're keynoting, if you're emceeing, if you're going in as an expert, it needs to be rewritten to be useful to that group that's using your bio, right? Your platform, your reach and network. So anyway, Fanny, thank you so much. That was really, really, really poignant. And Paul, as always, bringing phenomenal conversations to the table. I cannot wait to see everyone in person.